Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and let's talk about some really strange connections regarding the origin of the coronavirus that people are not allowed to talk about. By the way, this video risks my ability to keep making videos. It risks my career, but I do this for the truth and nothing else. I want to get the truth out to the populace. So make sure to check those links below, hit that like button, join our new newsletter at iamband.com, and obviously just support us any way you can. Share this on social media because these videos are not allowed to reach people these days, and it's really concerning because YouTube's taking down videos on the subject left and right. Let's look at this. So, as this article from the dailymail.co.uk says, revealed, U.S. government gave $3.7 million grant to Wuhan lab at Center of Coronavirus Leak Scrutiny that was performing experiments on bats from the caves where the disease is believed to have originated. And as the bullet points here say, the U.S. National Institute of Health, a government agency, awarded a $3.7 million research grant to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The lab is the center of several conspiracy theories that suggest it is the original source of the coronavirus outbreak. The institute experimented on bats from the source of the coronavirus. They were captured more than 1,000 miles away in Yunnan. Sequencing of the COVID-19 genome has traced it to bats to Yunnan's caves. And the U.S. government funded research on coronavirus transmission in the lab over the past decade. I wouldn't call it much of a conspiracy theory anymore because there has been abundant evidence that it at least leaked out of the lab, though I believe it was bioengineered. As a Zero Hedge article says, explosive report. Wuhan biolab captured bats from caves traced to COVID-19 outbreak, had U.S. funding. And as the article goes into, recent findings regarding the origin of COVID-19 continue to support our January reporting that the disease may have originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which was experimenting with bat coronavirus found to be 96% genetically identical to COVID-19. And by the way, Zero Hedge, which we're looking at here, was banned, I believe, from Twitter for talking about this, which now is being admitted by things like MSN and Yahoo News. As it continues here, it says, on Saturday, the Daily Mail added an important piece to the puzzle. The Institute was experimenting on mammals captured over 1,000 miles away in Yunnan, which is particularly notable because genetic analysis of COVID-19's genome has traced it to horseshoe bats found in Yunnan's caves. Also disturbing is that the lab had been operating in part on a $3.7 million grant from the U.S. government. The Mail on Sunday has learned that scientists there experimenting on bats as part of a project funded by the U.S. National Institute of Health, which continues to license the Wuhan laboratory to receive American money for experiments. Results of the research were published in November 2017 under the heading Discovery of a Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronavirus Provides New Insights into the Origins of SARS coronavirus. The exercise was summarized as bats in a cave in Yunnan, China, were captured and sampled for coronaviruses used for lab experiments. All sampling procedures were performed by veterinarians with approval from the Animal Ethics Committee of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And I quote, bat samplings were conducted 10 times from April 2011 to October 2015 at different seasons in their natural habitat at a single location, cave in Kunming, Yunnan Province, China. Bats were trapped and fecal swab samples were collected, the paper continues. In April 2018, a similar study was published by the Institute titled Fatal Swine Acute Diarrhea Syndrome Caused by an HKU2-Related Coronavirus of Bat Origin, which reveals following a 2016 bat-related coronavirus outbreak on Chinese pig farms, bats were captured in a cave and samples were taken. Experimenters grew the virus in a lab and injected it into 3-day-old piglets. Intestinal samples from sick piglets were ground up and fed to other piglets as well. That's pretty messed up. As it continues, according to the Mail, senior ministers can no longer rule out that the virus first spread to humans after leaking from a Wuhan laboratory. And let me just remind you guys for a moment, the first cases of novel coronavirus that we know of was in the Netherlands back in 2015 as a sample in the lab, which was then transferred in part to a Winnipeg, Canada lab, where some samples were allegedly gone missing by the University of Manitoba at their virology and infectious disease labs, and apparently a Chinese couple stole it And then suddenly we see this leak out in Wuhan, China. I mean, unless these bats went into a really hardcore security virology lab, one of the biggest, I believe, in China, which happens to be in Wuhan, and ate the samples, and then went out, and then people ate the bats, then otherwise there's no chance that this just came from people eating bats at a market. But it's an interesting study because it goes further into the fact that this seems to have been bioengineered and spread on purpose, regardless of the reasoning behind it. The fact of the matter is we see who benefits from this the most. And I'll show you some of the people that benefit from it the most. As you see here, good old Bill Gates. You know, what a nice guy. He can't even keep viruses off of Microsoft computers, but he's going to save the world from a virus. He's not a doctor. Of course, we recently interviewed Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the inventor of email, and of course, 4 degrees from MIT, and one of the top most, reputable people when it comes to immunology in the United States. We interviewed him the other day on our channel, and we definitely suggest you all check that out because he debunks a lot of this crap. But Bill Gates was involved in a pandemic exercise called Event 201, which happened in October of last year. And as it says here, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Health Security, in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise on October 18th, 2019. In New York, New York. The exercise illustrated areas where public-private partnerships will be necessary during the response to a severe pandemic in order to diminish large-scale economic and societal consequences. And it was a very, very similar situation as we see today with the Wuhan, so-called Wuhan coronavirus. Of course, there were war games with the U.S. In Wuhan, China, right before the outbreak, too, which should be noted. But leading into this article, which I've been showing a lot from The Last American Vagabond, as it says here at the top, the leaders of 2 controversial pandemic simulations that took place just months before the coronavirus crisis, Event 201 and Crimson Contagion, share a common history: the 2001 biowarfare simulation Dark Winter. Dark Winter not only predicted the 2001 anthrax attacks, but some of its participants had clear foreknowledge of those attacks. Well, isn't that interesting? And we can't help but mention, which I should have mentioned earlier when I was talking about Bill Gates, but Bill Gates recently said that the virus won't kill as many people as he thought. And as a matter of fact, the shutdowns will likely kill far more people and possibly millions of people. Yet he continues to say we need these shutdowns and we shouldn't be allowed out of the house until vaccines are given to every single American, and with the rest of the world included, as a global citizen or whatever he wants to call himself. And I can't help but also mention that we are seeing the World Health Organization run a lot of the show, tell people that, tell governments that they should be raiding people's houses, splitting up families, going door to door, which won't work in a lot of the U.S., but nonetheless is something that they are definitely trying to do. But who runs the World Health Organization, by the way, I have to add that they told people not to wear masks and hug a Chinese person day at the beginning of this whole crisis. And now suddenly, if you don't wear a mask, you could go to jail, as we've seen in many places in the U.S. and elsewhere. But this man, Tedros, was one of the top members of the violent Ethiopian Communist Party. Of course, the United Nations has been heavily involved with dictators and trying to create a global Chinese model for a long time, especially considering they have had Saudi Arabia on the Human Rights Commission, as well as trying to put Mugabe, you know, the Zimbabwean dictator, in as one of the heads of the human rights fraction of the United Nations, which is laughable at best. I mean, he died recently, but nonetheless, he was a violent dictator who hyperinflated the economy in Zimbabwe. But again, we have people like Bill Gates saying that it's better that we have these shutdowns, even though it'll kill all these people. Well, we're seeing a huge communist crackdown on the populace, the likes of which we have never ever seen in history. Communist control of private property, a huge shift over of power into China as the U.S. suffers, as their death toll goes up, even though they're fudging the numbers and over exaggerating the numbers in the U.S. while under counting the numbers in China, while 21 million phone numbers randomly go missing. There's clearly a plan here that goes way back to Henry Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong and creating an alliance which created a monopoly on trade for China with Mao Zedong, and then leading into the creation of the Trilateral Commission with Zbigniew Brzezinski alongside Jimmy Carter. And going from that into a technocratic police state, which Zbigniew Brzezinski dreamed of and talked about and wrote about extensively creating. And now you have social credit in China and all this kind of stuff. And now it's a perfect power shift into China from the U.S., which was always part of the plan, and creates a global technocratic new world order. And this isn't conspiracy theory anymore, guys. This is what's happening. Let's see what else is happening in the world. All the while, trillions of dollars are printed, and as this says, JP Morgan predicts GDP will completely crater, forecasts a staggering 40% second quarter drop. And by the way, Wells Fargo dropped 34% in 1 week. We're seeing the biggest global depression in history, and millions will suffer. Just unbelievable amounts of people, and possibly as many as 1 billion people worldwide will lose their job. And we're seeing stories like this, sign of the times, mile-long line of cars outside California grocery giveaway, and we're seeing bread lines essentially at this point. It is absolutely horrible, but meanwhile, they say this in places like the UK. Coronavirus, UK lockdown restrictions could remain until cure or vaccine is found. And then they're going to stick it in all of your arms while pushing a cashless society, force vaccinations, communist control of private property, stick you in your home, go into your home whenever they want. And on top of that, they will put military in the streets, crash the economy, and make you all dependent slaves of the state. Fauci also says lockdown will continue until there are no new cases of COVID-19. Well, isn't that convenient? While they're all playing this game, worst in the world, the U.S. now has the most coronavirus deaths after overtaking Italy, as 2,000 die in 24 hours. And of course, they're counting people who have pneumonia as coronavirus victims. And some of them do have coronavirus, but not necessarily the novel type. I know someone that has had pneumonia many times in my life, that any cold can trigger it. But with that said, they're over-exaggerating numbers, people dying of heart attacks, people getting in car crashes. They're falsely claiming that they died of coronavirus, which is wrong. Let's get the stats right, and let's start. There's no proper test to properly test for novel coronavirus. They're testing people who have the regular coronavirus, which I guarantee almost every single one of you watching has had a form of coronavirus before in your life, or if not twice, or maybe 10 times even. They're telling people to stay out of the sun, basically. Like, don't watch sunsets. They'll give you a $1,000 fine. This is total authoritarianism, and it actually is counterproductive against curing. Meanwhile, in Sweden, they have very low rates of death. They have refused to shut down. Same within Belarus, and in part in Mexico, where I am right now. I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and I think I made a good choice here, though they have started shutting down things, but it's all for face value for maybe a couple weeks, while in the U.S. they're talking about possibly as much as 2 years and forcing people 70 years or older into their house. Whatever happened to individual responsibility? Now it's collective responsibility? There's no such thing. That is called slavery, guys, and this is no longer a war on coronavirus. This is a war on you. Don't forget that. Anyway, we will continue to break down this issue extensively. This is just so over the top and ridiculous at this point. So be free, disobey in the most responsible manner. Like any time, if you're sick, don't go and kiss your grandma. I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, it's coronavirus, novel coronavirus. Sure, the rates might be slightly higher than the flu, per capita anyway, percentage-wise. But if I had the flu, I still wouldn't, go and hang out with my grandmother. There are certain risks we have to take in life and certain responsibilities we have to take in life. But one thing is for sure, we do not have a responsibility to obey the state, which is the biggest organized crime racket in history and has killed millions of people, spread biowarfare for as long as it's been around. And it only benefits from more control over you. This is like the Patriot Act. These restrictions will not just magically go away when this is all over. Anyway, if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video on social media so we aren't a shadow banned. And of course, check those links below and join the www.iambanned.com newsletter. I really appreciate any help we can get here at WHAM. Check those links. And until next time, guys, just stay safe and be free and live by example. As always, this is the time to utilize all the things you've talked about for years as far as a freedom fighter, and utilize those ideas and bring them into real life and prove them to the world. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Like what you see here, WHAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We really can't do it without you. We've been so insanely shadow banned, about 90% at this point, and 95% demonetized. As Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, comes in and says that she is shutting down quote-unquote controversial content and cutting out the views on this controversial content by 70%. She's been bragging about it. We need your help more than ever in this battle for truth in information. You guys are what keeps us alive, so we really appreciate just even $1 a month makes a huge difference. If everyone could give just $1 a month, we wouldn't even have to worry about competing against the mainstream propaganda networks. You can also donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen for you to scan if you please, as well as in the comments and description. Liking and sharing makes a big difference as well, and finding us on alternative social media platforms like float.app, that's flote.app, makes a huge difference. We're at Josh Sigurdson as well as at Wham. Float is replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, and of course monetization on videos for creators, live streams with super chats in crypto, and most of all, no algorithm, because at the end of the day, it's all about reach, guys. This is all about actually reaching people with the message and waking up the public. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, all sorts of different platforms. Try to follow us on as many things as possible, because very soon this channel will very likely just be completely deleted from YouTube, and you'll never see us again, and you'll be stuck with only the mainstream networks. Also, come on out and see us at Anarcho Vegas 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada in July, where such speakers such as G. Edward Griffin and many others will be speaking. You could use promo code WHAM on your VIP tickets and save 10%, as well as buy extremely cheap tickets for just $20.20. You won't find a cheaper conference than this with such amazing names. Check anarchovegas.com for more information on that. We hope to see you out there. And anyway, I really appreciate all of you guys joining us. You make it possible for us to survive in this volatile, propagandized climate. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Bye.